So we have a few objectives for today. We're going to start with talking a little bit about who we are and what we do and what our partnership model looks like. You're here today, presumably, to hear about some uncommon collaboratives. If not, now would be the time to quietly excuse yourselves. And then we're going to dig into some examples because you're really here to hear about how it works. Everything is good in theory, and I'm going to give you a bunch of that. But then we're going to talk about what it really looks like on the ground in 2 examples from EarthForce. This is the mission of EarthForce. EarthForce engages young people as active citizens who improve the environment and their communities now and in the future. EarthForce focuses its service learning and civic engagement programs around the environment, both the built and the natural. We are based here in Denver, and we work through partnerships in more than 55 communities nationwide. And this is the vision for our organization. We envision a nation where young people from all walks of life are actively making positive change to the environment at their schools, in their neighborhoods, and in partnership with their communities. So we aim for having a larger impact on young people, on the adults that work with them, as well as the communities where they live and work. We do all of this through a 6-step service learning process. This is really the core of our work, and it's developed around an inquiry to action process, and we spend a lot of our time doing really high quality professional development to support these formal and non-formal educators in using our 6-step process in their classrooms, in out-of-school time, in summer programs, in university courses, and in partnerships with corporations. So we spend a lot of our energy supporting people who use the EarthForce process. What makes us a little different, I think, is that we don't just do one professional development. We spend a lot of time investing in communities and our partnerships, providing ongoing support. I think we all would agree that service learning is a challenge, and to do it well and to really embed it in your organization or in your community requires a little bit of support and ongoing professional development. So this is what our process looks like. This should seem pretty familiar to you guys. It looks similar to many of the service learning processes that we all use. I won't go into this in great detail, but the overview is that step 1 is really an inventory. So we ask young people to collect both data around the issues facing their communities and all of the positive attributes that they see. In step 2, we ask them to use a democratic decision-making process to make a decision about the issue that they want to focus on. So collectively, they will vote and decide which community issue they're going to tackle. In step 3, they revisit those inventory skills. We ask them to collect more information, now more specifically on that issue that they chose to focus on. We ask them to really engage community partners, experts, and those folks who can support them in understanding the policy and practice, history and economics of the issue that they're focusing on. In step 4, again, we return to the skills that they learned in step 2, collaborative decision making, to decide what strategy they're going to use to address the issue. As Lisa mentioned yesterday in her plenary comments, we're really focused on having young people develop solutions to problems. So in this step, we're really asking them to choose a long-term solution that they feel like they can carry out based on the criteria they have to work with. So step 5 is planning and carrying out that action. They build work plans, timelines, budgets. Just like we all do in our daily jobs, we ask these young people to plan for that action and then execute. Step 6 is a giant reflection opportunity. While reflection is embedded across the 6 steps, we ask them to take a look back, talk about how it went, what they might do differently. We also ask them to look forward and make recommendations about what students coming after them might do to carry forward with the work. So again, I think we would all probably agree that service learning is difficult. And for Earth Force to carry out that lofty mission and vision and really take that 6-step process and embed it in communities, we rely heavily on partnerships. So as you all know, quality partnerships are one of the 8 high-quality standards of service learning. And we're really investing in trying to make that the core of how we carry out our programs. We started partnerships as part of doing service learning to support the content of what students were working on. So as students would decide what issue they were focusing on, we would engage community partners that could provide the right support. Water quality experts, waste, energy, those kinds of environmental issues that students were focusing on. And we have some really amazing folks who provide that expertise. At the time, we were also then, as staff, supporting the educators directly in doing the service learning. So we brought in those experts, we were supporting the teachers, and we realized that we weren't really having the impact that we were hoping to have. We backed up a little bit and acknowledged that there were partners in some of our communities who were actually owning the process themselves and embedding it into the work that they did. So instead of just being someone who would come in and provide content, they were actually using service learning as part of their education programs and how they were thinking about engaging young people. This, to us, was huge success. So as we redesigned our strategic plan a few years ago, we took that symbol of success and made it our strategy going forward, to work in partnerships, to have impacts in communities that provide multiple opportunities to young people to experience service learning. We built this strategy off of this theory of collective impact. Collective impact really now is how and why we do what we do. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time giving you an overview of collective impact. I think it's amazing and awesome and super hard to do. So we're going to give you that overview and then let these fine folks talk about how they're embedding that into the Earth Force process around the country. So first of all, hello. This is where you can find this. It's the product of the Stanford Social Innovation Review, and there are 2 articles that are easy to find online, and they're not super long, and they're not boring academic. They're actually really helpful and easy to grasp. Maybe not so easy to implement, but easy to understand. So one is called Collective Impact, and that was published in 2011. And the follow-up to that is called Channeling Change, Making Collective Impact Work, and that's from 2012. And that's the follow-up article where the authors discovered that they were having this huge following around the idea of collective impact and produced the second article with some more strategies for implementing. So it's the story of Earth Force as well. We were hugely successful at reaching the individual teacher or the individual school. And teachers were doing amazing things. And then their schools would go into some sort of reform, or that teacher would retire. And the anchor that we had would be gone. So it's not really rocket science that to build a sustainable program, you need to surround yourself with more partners than just one. And that's the basic idea of collective impact. I'm going to read to you a little bit from these articles because I think the clarity with which they talk about collective impact is really helpful. So collective impact has a very simple definition. Are you ready? The commitment of a group of actors from different sectors to a common agenda for solving a specific problem. The keys for Earth Force are different sectors, a group of actors from different sectors to a common agenda for solving a specific problem. Now the converse, isolated impact, is what we all know and love. It's how we do our jobs. It's how we're funded. It's oriented towards finding and funding a solution embodied within a single organization, combined with the hope that the most effective organizations will grow or replicate to extend their impact more widely. Does that sound familiar? We're going to fund EarthForce because they're doing really good work, and we're going to hope that they build something that we can replicate forever and ever into infinity by themselves. Despite the dominance of this approach, there is very little evidence that this is the best way to solve complicated problems in our complex world. And in fact, in doing service learning, we ask our young people to have a collective impact. We ask them to work together. We ask them to engage community partners to have the most sustainable impact that they can have. Yet as organizations, government agencies, universities, corporations, nonprofits, schools, and districts, we don't partner as much as we could. So this is really the basis for how EarthForce designed its work going forward. So starting in 2010, we redesigned how we do our work. It's completely through partnerships and making friends and leveraging the expertise in a community towards a common goal. Now, it all sounds really good, right? And if you put the emphasis on the right word, you get kind of motivated and excited. The second article broke it down into how in the world are you going to do this? What are the tenets of good collective impact? There are some amazing examples of this. I would encourage you to read those articles. There are some organizations doing unbelievable things as parts of a collective impact initiative. So these 5 tenets are what those folks at Stanford believe need to be there to have successful collective impact. I think these are all things we can relate to as useful, even in more isolated work. Common agenda. Sounds easy. But having a common agenda when you set out to achieve this goal is really critical. Shared measurement. So identifying goals up front, measuring them along the way, agreeing to measure those impact points and progress together. Mutually reinforcing activities. This is kind of the basis of a good partnership. It's got to be good for you. It's got to be good for me. And it isn't just about lip service. It has to be really, truly mutually reinforcing. Continuous communication. It's kind of a duh. You got to talk. And you have to have hard conversations, not just the fun ones that you have when you win the grant, but then how you're going to execute and how you're going to measure and what you're going to do if something goes off the rails. And then backbone support. They believe that there should be an anchor to this work, a backbone to that collaborative that is anchored in the community and drives the work, supporting all of the partners equally, facilitating that communication. So that's a really quick and dirty. We're not the experts in this. We're trying really hard to achieve these goals. And this is what it looks like when we do it at EarthForce. There's a very big map of this if you've been over by our exhibit space. But this is the EarthForce strategic plan. It is in narrative form other places, but nobody reads that. This is a visual of what we hope to do in communities. This is our vision for collective impact. So what is on the bottom of this image are the partners, or all the people who come together to support young people having multiple opportunities to engage in service learning. That's government agencies, it's faith-based organizations, it's nonprofits, it's schools, it's corporations. It's anyone in the community with that common goal of supporting young people and having these experiences. And it can't be just one. We can't hold up this entire community with just one of these. It has to be a multitude of them. And again, we found that the only place that we were sustainable and successful was where we had a handful of partners addressing this. And then in this community, you follow the yellow brick road through service learning, engaging in youth leadership, civic engagement that leads to environmental action. if you get up close and personal to the graphic, these young people along the way are doing all the things we know are good teaching and learning, all the 8 tenets of quality service learning and civic engagement. But we can't do it without that collective impact of those partners. So that is the big picture of why we do what we do and why we think we should be doing more of this together. It's not really that easy. We'd love to stand up here and tell you that it's smooth sailing if you read those articles and you design a common agenda. But I would say that it's probably the most meaningful work that EarthForce has ever done. And the aim is really to have a wider, sustainable impact on young people and their communities. So we're doing this in many places across the country. We could give you a dozen examples of these initiatives in different stages of development, but we chose 2 today to talk to you about. One is called the Youth Engagement Zone, and it's here in Denver, and I'll ask Tosh to share with you about that. The second one will be called Green Schools Connect. It actually is called, it won't be called that, it is called Green Schools Connect. And that's another foray into uncommon collaboratives at a larger scale. And it's an exciting new project for EarthForce, and Kara and Lisa will share with you about that.
Yeah, well, part of it was looking at what's already working in the organization. So what Alicia didn't say is that for almost 20 years, we had been working this model, but not really acknowledged. We hadn't really kind of fathomed how powerful it was. So we had 2 models as EarthForce. We had local sites with bricks and mortar in communities doing this work. And the other strand of our work was we had 3 people working in over 30 communities around the country. So the strategic plan was really saying, wow, what's the best from here? And what's really working here? And what can we create as a morph of that that leverages our impact and is cheaper? I mean, there's no, I will not prevaricate that we were not like trying to figure out how to be more efficient organizationally. But we had this amazing model with really durable relationships, and we're like, there's something there. So we actually preceded the collective impact article, but it validated for us like, oh, what we thought made sense, somebody else has actually systematized and pulled out. So we've always been an organization that's like, if something's not working, we're going to try something different. So we made that shift. And some people left. I mean, it was not, collective impact is not simple, nor is getting to collective impact internally that simple. It was pretty traumatic for us. But we have these amazing people who stayed. So there are 2 things that happened that I'm really proud of. One of them was obviously it's a leveraging model, which means it costs less because we don't have people on the ground in every community that we work in. So our budget is about 2/3 of what it was. But the other part, and this is the cool part, 25% of the budget we now have actually is funding to partners. So part of the collective impact was we can't say we're doing collective impact and be the only ones who have money. So joint fundraising and figuring out how to really share resources in a meaningful way has been a really critical part of this shift for us.
So I want to kind of talk about that one question for just a second, the impact on the budget. And I also want to overlay it with this idea that collective impact is a challenge. And what I would say to you, yeah, that's putting it pretty light, pretty gently. What I would say to you is think about the cost and think about the challenges that await us if we continue to work the same way we've been working. My name is Tosh. I'm from Denver. I move around the room. I love energy. You guys have come in and you've been a really nice audience. But now I'm going to ask you to participate, okay? So we're going to do a little talking, a little sharing, and try to pick the energy up a little bit. Plus, I had my coffee, so it's over. Um, so I was thinking about, and Kara knows this. I mean, she's seen me. She's seen the sweat, the tears, my day-to-day kind of reaction to the realities of education in what we call near Northeast Denver. Reform after reform after reform, grant after grant, young people still struggling to read at grade level, to understand what their change is when they go in 7-Eleven and buy a pack of hot Cheetos. I mean, I'm talking about the basics and what the risk is if we don't figure out how to work collaboratively. Because what we were finding out is, yes, Earth Force was meeting all of their grant deliverables. I see somebody yawning, so I got to pick it up. But our schools and our young people were not necessarily achieving any more than they would have had we not been there. I mean, we were there. It was great. We had a wonderful service learning project. Our evaluations showed that we were making an impact, but young people still were struggling. Basic levels, basic skills. So can we afford not to figure out how to push ourselves so that we could see some impact in the community? But this is you at the bottom, making all this, holding all this up. This is government, higher ed. You know who we don't have down there? Young people, because they're up here doing. For a moment, if you could just think about yourself, your community, your work. And I don't want you to go through all these bullets, but I do want you to talk to the person next to you about a time when you had to collaborate. Young people, I know that cooperative learning stuff is finally coming in handy. You know how when you have to get in teams and work in pairs and do all of that? I mean, even at that level, that's important. Because what's happening now is, for us, funders want to see us playing nicely. So it's no longer an option. It's the way that we thrive together. But what I'm doing today is really just presenting a case study, something for you to, so that you can leave with some imagery around what this could look like, or at least what it looks like here in Northeast Denver. So several years ago, a bunch of us, community organizations, government folks, higher ed folks, faith-based folks, all those folks doing this, people like you in the room, we were meeting. And we were meeting in a collaborative called the Northeast Denver Children's Collaborative. I was going to say coalition or make something up for the other C, but it was collaborative. And 2 grants came along in the process of our work. We weren't planning for this. This was us deciding we're going to come together to see some real impact. And 2 grants came along, 2 big ones. Promise Neighborhoods, and something called the Youth Engagement Zone out of the Corporation for National and Community Service, Learn and Serve, which some of you probably are familiar with. And we went for it. It was a long shot. I knew we were going to get it. That's my side note. But there were several hundred applications. I'm making that up. I don't really know. But it had to be, right? Because this grant was for like $1 million something bucks. So there were thousands of applications, and only 6 collaboratives got funded. And we were one of them. So we were blessed to have been funded. And so what we had to do was figure out who those partners would be. Not really hard. So we all got together and partnered and wrote this grant up. And we found out we had been awarded. And some of us were like, what? And I was like, I knew it. And people were like, shut up, you didn't know it. Anyhow, we got working. And it took us a lot longer than we thought it would take. So I just want to, I'm so sorry for all the words. I was going through this thinking, I wish I had some really cool pictures to show. Next year when I present, I'm going to have cool pictures to show and not so many words, because it's really about the story. And so what I wanted to share with you is, what did that partnership really look like? We got this really creative name after we got funded. We called it the Northeast Denver Youth Engagement Zone. So we named our work after the grant. And then we decided, we had written about these 4 innovation schools, and we wanted to create a network of support around young people in these schools. And so those schools were Cole, Whittier, Manual High School, and you guys might see Vernon zoom through the door because he's trying to make it to represent the partnership that we have, if he can. And one more school, and that was Bruce Randolph, which we added later. Our demographics, I think this could be any town USA, really. High percentage of free and reduced lunch, challenges around academic achievement, school failure. You know, here we are going through another reform model, and then economic depravity. What was not working had to be named, because we really needed to focus on what our common agenda was. And so we needed a shared understanding of what wasn't working. And I took out I took out the local school district name here on purpose, because I think this is what education is starting to look like any town USA again. So we had some traditional ways of teaching young people. We had lots of money, but no real progress. Of course, we met our deliverables. Chronic school closures. And what was happening on the community-based organization side was, we're still meeting our deliverables, but we're not making real impact in community. And like Alicia talked about earlier, we're totally working in isolation. So what a partnership was for us was like, hey, we went in on this grant together. Sometimes, not all the time. Here's your piece of the work. Here's our piece of the work. Here's your funding for the work. Here's our funding for the work. So it's not uncommon that we partner. We're all doing that because we know that's how we have to engage now. But what is uncommon about this collaboration is the how, the way that we decided to partner. And I won't say that it started off perfect. There was kind of like, hey, here's your part of the work thinking. And that takes time to undo. So, yeah, we all went in with that old way of how we do things. It's the part that makes it a little challenging. But we got to the point where we had to understand what the strength of each organization was and figure out how we wanted to strategize. The Northeast Denver Youth Engagement Zone is currently composed of 10 youth-serving partner organizations and schools that have a common understanding of the challenges and an agreed-upon approach. We also figured out we had to have a shared vision for the work. So this is a simple model of the things that we agreed upon. At the core of our work, we wanted to have a sustainable and integrated system of service learning that supported these 4 things. Youth leadership was very important. Increased academic success, because why are we here? It's not enough to just be having fun and enjoying young people like Charles. Meaningful community connections needed to happen. And then we understood that there was a need for entrepreneurial thinking. And beyond that, green jobs pipeline. So here's our partners. I know some of you didn't hear that drum roll, but it's very entertaining when you can hear it. I'm one of those people who love animation. And I haven't learned how to create a Prezi yet. But soon as I do, it's on. I'm not Prezzies all the way. So here are the 4 schools I tried to name that we're working with. And then we have partners like City Wild, Earth Force, that's us. Going Green, Living Bling. They talk about using hip hop as a means of reaching young people and empowering them. Metro Volunteers, Uncommon. When we first sat down with them way back in 2010, I was like, I didn't tell Lisa this, but because she invited them, but I was like, what are they doing here? And I love them now. I mean, I can't imagine our work without them. Their piece of the deal is that they're building capacity in schools through an integrated volunteer system. Metro Volunteers, Redline, they are using art as a way of engaging young people around social justice issues. Youth Biz is an entrepreneurial nonprofit for young people in grades 6 through 12. And City Wild uses the Leave No Trace philosophy to teach young people about how to be both in built and natural environment. And they also do some workforce development. So those are the folks. We came up with a vision and mission. No easy task, but we had to get to that place where we agreed on the strategy and how we wanted to do our work. I think that at this point, I'm supposed to stop because Lisa wants to tell you about another cool collaboration. But what I would say is what is often unfortunate is that what is uncommon is actually something that would be most impactful. Is actually something that might be a little simpler than we might be thinking. I think we get on this wheel where we continue to work the way we always work, not understanding, the definition of insanity, right? We're going to keep getting the things that we've always yielded from doing those same things. So I think my push and message for you, the call to action is that when you leave here, you're really thinking about some different ways in which to partner. You don't necessarily have to go out and find all new partners in government, higher ed. That's great in the end. But maybe there's a partnership that you have in existence that can be strengthened by thinking about some other ways in which to partner that supports young people, because I think that's what we're all doing in this conference. We're really trying to support the empowerment of young people. Young people who are in the room. The message, the call is for you as well. What are some ways that you all can begin to think about partnering or to partner with in youth adult partnerships? I've heard it referred to as YAPs yesterday, youth adult partnerships, or even amongst yourselves that empowers you and supports the work and the goals that you all have. Because we all have work. Real quick, someone tell me the name of this year's theme, the theme for this year, the title, the Without Limits. And that means everybody in here.
So if you take the conversation we just had about uncommon collaboratives, and I have to do this. So it's all about weaving the web. And the tighter we can build those strands to weave a web, I think the better, my metaphor for this is that we are doing a better job of supporting young people in their communities. Right now, when we're all like this, it's really easy for young people to fall through the cracks or not see potential paths for success or not have opportunities and experiences that really let them practice and exemplify the leadership that we need today and soon and later. We really are going to need it once they can vote and make decisions for us. I think they'll do a lot better job. So the notion of Green Schools Connect is that around sustainability and the environmental kind of consciousness of that, we once again are living in silos. This is an adult problem, okay? We have school districts that have facility managers. We have young people and educators. We have the heartbeats in the school who are doing whatever they do in the school. We have purchasing and all the bigwigs who are making decisions about how schools should be run. And it ends up not working very well. You can talk to facilities managers who, as much as they may think greening their school is something they want to do, it's really, really challenging. You can talk to educators who can't get the facilities managers to participate around things that they're doing in the classroom. And you can talk to purchasing people who are absolutely not going to invest in spending more money on buying green products. And in the end, we have schools that are not green. They don't exemplify the systems notion that we could have at schools of what sustainability needs to look like. So, what's Green Schools Connect? The idea of Green Schools Connect is to establish an uncommon collaborative that brings a bunch of folks in the room who are players around the sustainability movement to talk about how school districts can ensure that every school is a shining example, a shining star of sustainability. Because every decision we make every day is about sustainability. Every time we make a decision to purchase something, every time an educator makes a decision to use it, whatever unit they use in their classroom, you've made a decision. Am I making sense? So, that is more nods than I get from my staff. So, what we're trying to do here is bring VPs of sustainability from the corporate world, that whole array of players within a school district, nonprofits who are dedicated on many, many levels to this work, whether it's curriculum, whether it's philosophically around what are the tenets of sustainability, government agencies, so EPA, Department of Education has a Green Ribbon School program. We are trying to bring all those people into a room to start building the collective capacity to transform our school districts. So we had our first, what we called our kickoff. So there's a kickoff, and then there's a year-long experience of folks sharing, learning, experimenting, being mentored, bringing expertise, creative ideas around how to do this work, using our 6-step process because it's really just good problem solving, and we as adults need to be as good at using it as we expect young people to be. So the structure of Green Schools Connect exemplifies our process, but it puts adults and young people in the room around how we're going to do this. So again, we love the visualization because I think it's so powerful. And if you could read it, I wouldn't even say the words. But the idea was bringing all these people into the room and what they can bring. The notion of valuing everyone's expertise is transformative in terms of the energy that it brings out from people, because every one of us has something to bring to the conversation. And then obviously it's got systems thinking, it's got the skill sets of all these people looking towards our dream for sustainability, which is basically, if we can break down the silos, we're going to come up with some amazingly creative ideas, and we're going to come up with the collective will to make the change. The notion is we're going to do these regionally. We're inviting 5 to 10 school districts to work with us, region by region, to do this. We're going to have some national corporate partners from VPs of sustainability who have, it's not that they've done it, but that they have a really interesting experience of how they've accomplished that in their business endeavors, to share and to learn from school facilities folks. And then we're going to have a bunch of people looking at how in the world do we align all of these different pieces. The notion is collective impact, and we're trying to really embed the learnings from not only the field, but from for example, the youth engagement work that we've done, to really have this be a collective effort.